Just a second now. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, guys, good evening. My name is Jatin Malhotra, and I'm a part of RPS Consulting, predominantly supporting the organization into big data technologies, RPA, which is robotics process automation, machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence training across multiple customer base, across different segments of customers, different domains. Overall, I come up with about 17 years of work experience. Started off with strategic implementations and the data analytics side of it, wherein I was handling the MIS, and then started getting into the implementations across RPA, AI since 2014, right? And then also picked up a training forte, which was been my forte from a long time, and that's what I have trained about 4,000 plus people across these technologies that I was talking about. So I really wanted to thank every one of you, right? Specifically, we have such a huge audience, about 300 plus people. So I really appreciate your time that you'll be spending for the next couple of hours, and hope you all are safe and sound wherever you guys are. So to start off with, let me set up the context here. Guys, we'll be talking about the overview of big data, what big data is, what are the different technologies that are being used, different tools and segments that are being used in big data technologies. And then at the same time, we will be talking about the different kind of an analytics that can be done, and which all segments is getting benefited about big data, and what are the different roles and structure that big data can provide from the overall perspective of this learning that we will have. So in case you have any questions, there's a question section in the GoTo meeting. I would appreciate you guys putting in the questions there, right? While I will be picking up the questions at appropriate time and making sure that you guys get the answer, and I would be glad to answer them for you as I said. So to start off with, I hope my screen is visible to you all. Specifically, this question is for the administrator of this training. Ajay, I hope my screen is up and running for everyone. Okay, I'm assuming the answer is yes. To start off with, let's move on to the slide. Let's talk about the industry landscape of big data technologies, right? So when we talk about big data, right, let's understand what is the definition of big data, what big data is all about. Big data is all about the largest chunk of the data, right? And that too a complex one. When I say complex one, it can have multiple insights, multiple structure, right, for a complexual data, right? And that big data is extremely large, right? And also high in volume, variety, and velocity, right? When I say volume, it can be TBs, petabytes of the data that I'm talking about. Variety, the different segmentation of the data that I'm talking about. Velocity is the speed of data getting used, crunched, and improvising, increasing is what the velocity is. The examples here are, right, the share traded on the US market every day, right? There are 7 billion shares traded on a daily basis in the US stock market, right? Data generated in one flight from New York to London is about 10 terabytes of the data. Number of tweets that are there on the Twitter is about 400 million, and there are 3 billion likes in Facebook on a daily basis. So when we talk about the volume, right, I'm talking about the volume of the data that is coming up with such a huge number, right? And 90% of the world's data, if you see, since the time this overall internet has been boosted up, right? In last 2 years, 90% of the data has been generated, right? And that's where in last couple of years you have started listening to this word called big data, right? So if I have to recap this slide or recap the definition, big data is about the data that is large in volume, have a largest variety of the structure, and the velocity, the speed of the data getting generated is high, that is called big data. We cannot call big data with 100,000 line items in my database and call it as a big data. No, it's a regular data that can be managed by my regular data structures which have been there. So to understand the big data, it's about the largest chunk of the data that we get on a regular basis, daily basis, in these three V's that we call it from a big data perspective, right? Data has its own issue, right? Data is does not make any sense if it's unstructured, sitting somewhere, right? And data on its own, as the definition says, is useless unless you make a sense out of it, right? I have petabytes of a data sitting onto my database cluster, right? What will I do with that data, right? Until and unless I do some analysis onto it, perform some analytics onto it, right? That data itself is just the storage or a junk sitting into my storage capacity doing nothing. So let's understand what is analytics, right? The analytics is nothing but the scientific process of transforming data into insight for making better decisions, offering new opportunities for a competitive advantage. Now, if I have to talk about what analytics is, right? When we transform our data into a meaningful decision making capabilities, or the trends that can be defined out of those data, is what analytics are, right? Or what analytics is. I can define the analytics or bifurcate the analytics into two different segments here, right? One is predictive analytics, the other one is preventive analytics, right? Prediction is something that it may happen, right? Like you have seen, right? Weather department, they always go back and predict that, okay, there is a forecast of a hurricane, there is a forecast of a tsunami that can come up, right? How they are predicting? It is all from the historical trends of the atmosphere, the air pressure, right? And the other components which creates that decision making capabilities out of those multiple data points which have been there, which enable us to understand, yes, this is where the tsunami may come up. This is the time that tsunami may come up by the speed that the winds are being flowing and so on and so forth, right? So when my data becomes more complex, right? It means I have more structured output that can be generated, more informed decisions that I can make, right? So that's an example of predictive analytics, right? I can predict something, right? Preventive analytics is more of a postmortem, right? It had something, right? Something has happened. Now I'm trying to prevent that to happen next time, right? So when my data gives me such decisions and the offering, right, I can do predictive and preventive analytics so that my data is just not the chunk of KBs, MBs, petabytes, terabytes sitting somewhere, but a meaningful output that can be generated, right? The other example is a lot of social media analytics that happen, right? What we do, we go back, get the voice of the customer from the social analytics, and understand what is something that my customer is looking at, so that I have more stickiness, more loyalty customers across my e-commerce or retail segment, or maybe from a B2B segment also, right? So that's what analytics is, and analytics is more like a subset of my data. Without data I cannot do analytics, and without analytics data is useless. Now, let's talk about the business case of big data analytics, right? Let me give you a quick example here, right? The business need here is the business environment today is more complex than ever before, and we all understand that, right? They expected to have more diligent responses, right? Because of the reason that the customers' demands are increasing, stakeholders and regulatory affairs are being the one who is the fulcrum of our entire product or solution, right? The goal is, right, in most of the primary objective of the organization when they start doing their analytics is to improvise their revenue, improvise the profit, and optimize the expenditures, right? I'll take one example here. We all travel by airlines, right? There is a time, right? There is a type of a plane, there is a type of a flight that gets attached to a particular sector or a distance, right? Depending upon what? Depending upon the historical data, so that my utilization, the flight seat utilization is on a higher side, right? How that can be optimized? I can have historical data to understand how many people are traveling, right? What kind of a food that they have ordered during that flight, so that I have maximum customer satisfaction from a fooding perspective, right? What is the time that I should go back? What time the people are traveling, right? So that I have attached my flights for that particular sector. My Delhi to Chandigarh flights, for example, the turnout will be very less, right? However, my flight from Delhi to Bangalore will be more frequent because of the number of people that travel, right? It's not that it's a metropolitan and let's do that, right? It is after a lot of analysis that has gone. Otherwise, if my seat utilization in a flight is not optimal, right, my revenue will not be good, my profit for that sector will not be good, and my expenditures will be so high that I will be making as a loss making sector. So with that all data, right, at the end of the day, the reason big data is implemented for any of the sector, for any of the use case, for any of the organization for that matter, right, it is always about revenue and profit growth and optimize the expenditures that have been there. And the solutions that can be, right, the organizations have been turning into the usage of analytics to a higher side, right? There was a survey that has happened in 2010 that 83% of the global CIOs, which was surveyed by IBM, singled out that business intelligence and analytics is one of their visionary plans for enhancing the competitiveness, right? Now, the reason it was being, right, after the survey, it was also being surfaced that if the data is there, right, data can speak its own language. Data can give me the insights of the business failure, business success, customer failures, customer success, profit optimization, and also the revenue growth that I can go back and predict, right? So with that being said, right, I always go back and tell a lot of my trainees or the participants in these webinars, trainings and all, right? The challenge here, right, in this environment as of today is the data itself, right? A lot of time organizations want to go back and implement their own COE for business intelligence and analytics, but they do not know where to find the data from, right? So whenever you also start developing your skill set, right, always look for where exactly most of the data is turning out, right? Now today, be it e-commerce giants like Amazon, Flipkart, right, Myntra for the world, right, and so on and so forth. Be it airlines, right, any airlines that you can think about, right. Be it any hospital and the healthcare organizations that you can look at, right. They all are doing the data analytics, right. Lot of time, right, they right now you must be seeing the analytics that people are doing from the COVID-19 perspective, that they always say peak is yet to come in some of the countries, right? They say that India is so far doing good and there is no peak as such that has been seen in rest of the other countries. How they are seeing that? It is nothing but it's and also they say that peak is yet to come and the prediction of number of cases for COVID-19 is X, right? So they are doing that survey, they are doing that analytics and coming back to a solution that, okay, this is what may happen. Now what is the after effects of that, right? How I can control this? Because if I do predictive analytics, it is all about controlling that particular stuff, right? And that's what they say, like, okay, we need more ventilators, we need more hospitals, we need more patient to the doctor ratio that has to be improvised. They are calling some doing all that from infrastructure, physicians, and the hospitalization perspective to bring so that they are geared up for any calamities that can happen, right? So that's the power of big data that we are talking about here, and that's the power of overall perspective, right, that we can work around from the overall big data perspective. So let me pause here and pick up if there are any questions. Let me see. Okay, there are no questions as of now. Let's see. Okay, so I have few questions that are being raised. So let me pick up one at a time. Uh, like in COVID, we are doing preventive analytics. Tanya, it is not, it's a combination of preventive and predictive analytics, right? When I say predictive, it is predicting the numbers, right? That this is the level our COVID numbers can go, right? However, right, the preventive actions that they are taking, that I should need more physicians, I should need I should need more ventilators, I should need more kits, right? How many kits, how many ventilators, that is what we are doing from those analytics from that perspective, right? The next aspect, the next question is difference between big data, data science, ML, IoT, and AI. I would say big data and data science, they are, I mean, I call them as brother and sister, right? So when I say big data is a larger umbrella, and that is where you have data science, data analytics, and MIS as three different components of big data, right? And at the same time, when there is a component of ML that comes into the play, because without your when I bifurcate analytics into predictive and preventive, right, predictive analytics is more ML based learning that gets into it, right? We train our data sets to ensure that data understands the behavior, understand what is something that is coming up, and make sure that decisions that are coming up or the trends that are coming up are more vital in nature, more wider in nature, so that it makes easier for us to go back and make the decisions out of the data that is coming up. However, IoT, right, it's an Internet of Things. It is more like your smart homes, right? It is more like the healthcare bans. In US, there is a hospital called Texas Healthcare Authority, which is THA. Lot of their end renal diseases patients, right, who is on to a longer term care, right, what they do is they do not have to send their nurses on a regular basis. What they do is there's a band that is tied to these patients, and all these patients vital is being tracked by the system, right? Wherein if the vital goes up and down, let's say there's a patient who is a cancer patient, right? His vitals, his blood pressure, his breathings, right, that has to be at a certain amount of numbers, right? If that goes up and down, there is an alarm, there is a trigger that happens. That's the power of IoT. AI is everywhere, right? When I say AI, it's an artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is again a big animal and ocean in itself, which talks about the human intervention, human thought process going into it, human decision powers being trained, being implemented by the system. And that's how the overall perspective of big data, data science, ML, IoT, and AI comes into the play, right? Uh, the next question that I have, how big data is different for B2B organization rather than B2C, right? For B2B, the question that we have from Ravi, the B2B organizations are more focused on the voice of the customer. They do a lot of surveys, like to millions of people before their product launch, just to understand what is something that customers in a particular segment is looking at, right? No larger product, right? Be it, right, if I go back, way back in Milton days, our school days, when we used to go to the school, we used to carry a Milton water bottle, right? Milton water bottle, which was a square shape, longer shape, has some own problem, right? I was not able to put it into my bag. So there was survey that has happened to understand what that customers are looking at, what is something which brings ease to the customers, right? So those are the surveys predominantly happen in B2B before the product launch, right? most of the analytics, right, is into the retail sector, healthcare sector, right, which is directly connected to the individual environment, right? For example, right, on a particular day, right, what kind of a products are being sold and which is this segment of people who are buying it, right? Maybe on a new year, right, my fashion apples can go up, while during the Diwali stages, right, my gadgets can go up. Which is the segment that is buying, so that they can plan their marketing accordingly, right? It's a combination of B2B and B2C, wherein I'm understanding my business environment and focusing on the right segment of the people to analyze my marketing cost and pick up that values that have been shown up, right? That okay, this is the $1 billion sale that I will be going back and launching it. This is a day that I should go back and launch, right? And also it revolves around what kind of a people segment, right? What kind of an age of the people that I need to go back and focus on, right? How's my marketing strategy will be. So that all comes in with different trends that comes into the play. And guys, that billion day sale or Black Friday sale that happens every year with these organizations like Flipkart and Myntra and Amazon, Flipkarts and all that, it does not happen that okay, tomorrow we are launching it up, right? We also look at what kind of a traffic that can hit our website, so we can have preventive and predictive analytics both, right? So that I can make sure my infrastructure is up. A lot of time you might have seen that the infrastructure has been closed down, right? So that is what the difference in the B2B B2C environments are. Then isn't analytics the work of machine learning? Analytics, when we talk about preventive and predictive analytics, that's a part of ML AI that goes into the analytics as well, right? Big data and Hadoop are not same things. Hadoop is the platform, the clustering platform, which breaks my petabytes of the data into small clusters, and that concept is known as big data actually. How the NLP processing application in big data. When we talk about NLP, right, a lot of times now NLP and big data is playing a very vital role, right? For example, Tableau, right? I can integrate my NLP, right, with the help of Alexa, right? I can say that, hey Alexa, what were my sales in the month of October 2020 or 2019? I can get some data out of it, right? How can I prevent and make my sales more obedient for a sector, for a people between the age of 16 and 20? The AI engine goes back, checks it out and come back. So it is more from the overview of how voice and chatbots come into the play and give me the output with the analysis that's been done by running multiple queries, and that is how you can go back and get this from. The major difference between data scientists and data analytics: data scientists are the one who go back and do the ML AI part of it, right? When I say ML AI part of it, right, we talked about the scientists who go back and create that model. Guys, can you hear me? I hope I'm loud and clear, because I'm getting some I mean, the messages that I'm not audible. Might be some internet connectivity issues. So when we talk about the overall data scientists and analytics, in my subsequent slides I'll show you how they differ from each other, right? How they are different from each other. That is something that I will pick it up in my session. Thank you guys for the confirmation. Going back, let me go back to the slides. Okay, now let's talk about what is analytics. We know that the definition of analytics, but let's talk about the different type of analytics now. One is prescriptive analytics, right, which we call this as right, enabling the smart decisions basis the data. What should we do? What should I be in? What should be my next course of action, right? Predictive analytics, what could happen, right? So predicting the future. Prescriptive is preventing something which has already gone wrong, as I said, the post-mortem, right? That is what the prescriptive analytics that we call. Descriptive analytics is more like mining data to provide business insights, like why something has been failed, right? Why something was never, why something never worked, why the customer satisfaction scores are less, right? So they are the descriptive analytics, right? Wherein we are understanding what has happened because of which something has gone wrong, right? I was not able to predict hurricane coming into shores of India, right? Why I was not able to. So it is more of 5 whys that you say, right? When we talk about descriptive analytics, it is more about mining the data by cross-questioning the data, right? There is a concept called 5 whys. If I don't know whether you guys know or not, but yes, 5 whys. If you have a problem, right, and you ask 5 times why, right, to a successive questions, 90% of the scenarios you will get the answer, right? For example, I was late to the office. Why I was late to the office? There was heavy traffic. Why there was heavy traffic? That were the peak hours, right? That was the peak hours, right? Why I started at the peak hour? Because I slept late in the night. Why I slept late in the night? I was attending the late night calls, right? So the root cause analysis of any problem is something that descriptive analytics can help us to understand, right? And it works on the concept of 5 whys, nothing major, but yes, there are a lot of trends that you can see from the data perspective, right? And to come to a problem, right? So we have a problem statement, and I need to understand why that problem has been there, so that I can go back and say that what should we do now, right? I have been late to the office, or the flights are not working with the optimized seat utilizations in the flight, because of which I'm doing my losses, right? What had happened because of which I'm doing the losses? Seat utilization is one of the reasons. Now, prescriptive analytics can help us out to understand what should we do now, right? Should we change the timing? Should we change the flight type, or so on and so forth? And if we do not do this, what has happened versus what should be done? If we do not do this, what could happen, right? It can be a negative affair. And if we implement some strategy basis the descriptive and prescriptive analytics, what could happen now? How's my revenue go up from X percentage of the margins to a Y percentage of the margins, right? That is what helps us to look at future from the historical patterns that my data is showing up, and that's what the predictive analytics is all about, right? So moving on to the next one, I'll take 3 examples here, right? Prescriptive analytics, why the airline prices changes every hour, right? You have seen daily basis. If I look at today from Delhi to Mumbai, right, I may get it for 3,000. But as and when I approach towards the flight date or the travel date, it goes up, right? The prescriptive analytics advises on a possible outcomes. Okay, I have time, there can be the sales that can happen. Now I need to cover certain amount of cost, right? Basis that our engine can go back and say that okay, it should be 4,000. Now my dates are coming up more closer. I already have a revenue for this particular flight for this particular time at X rupees. I'm short of this. I have only 20 seats left to cover up that entire stuff, because initially I may have sold the tickets at a much lower cost to attract more customers. But now to make it profitable, I increase my price point to a certain extent, so that I get that I get those people who actually have to travel, who will not cancel, right? Most of the time, people who travel immediately or have booked their tickets immediately are the most lesser cancellation customers, right? While the people who have traveled 2 months or booked 2 months back, right, the chances of their cancellation at a last moment is very high. So that's why, keeping all these data points in mind, there is a cost that airlines go back and put it across for the customers to go back and buy their tickets, right? The next is, how do grocery cashiers know to hand you the coupons you might actually use? right? This is a predictive analytics, understanding the future. I know I have bought, right, why the customers, like, I don't know in India, but if you go to the stores in US like Macy's, you go to these stores like Radio Shack, right, which is an electronic store. You go to the grocery stores, right, like the large grocery stores, they tend to give you coupons, right? How they have predictive analytics enabled that, okay, this customer is buying on an alternate basis, right? A certain gift cards or certain electronic items. Why don't I go back and hand over him a coupon, right, which can generate my sales, right? My top line can go up, right? So that can help us to understand in future this person has a probability to buy a certain gadgets, certain groceries, certain clothings, right? And hence the coupons can be handed over by the cashier, right? Using it, using at the POC, sorry, the POS machines which have been there, point of sales machines which have been there, right? Which enables the cashier to understand that yes, this person can buy something out of it, right? Which to boost up the sales at the end of the day. How does Netflix recommend just the right movie? Most of the times you have seen that, okay, you may like certain movies, right? Which is in line to what you have served before, what kind of a movies that you have searched before, right? So it is basically insight into your past, as I was talking about, right? It understands what all surfing that you have done. Initially, when you log in into your account into Netflix for the first time, you may not see something of your sort. But yes, if you keep on visiting Netflix, keep on watching movies, shows, or series, it start giving you an option or predicting that, okay, basis your historical trends, this is what you may like it as well, right? So that you can go back and click there and start working onto it, right? Or start watching that. So that is giving from the insights into the past, giving you some recommendation. So we call this descriptive analytics as our recommendation engine also, right? So all these Netflix, Prime, MX, and multiple OTT channels like Woot and all, they all do descriptive analytics for recommending some series shows to a customer. And also whenever there is a new series that is being launched, let's say I'm more into political affairs, right? And somebody else is into the horrors, right? Horror movies and all that stuff. My prediction that Netflix will show will be more political oriented, more what do you say, the insights onto the government analytics and documentaries and all that stuff, while the other person may see something else, right? So that is all the trends that are being generated by the machine, and basis that the recommendation engine can be formed. The other example of recommendation engine is, right, you go into any of the job portals, right? What do you see there? You may, this job may be as per as your interest, or maybe when you start looking, when you start logging more into the job portals, you start getting more emails from the individual prospects or individual organizations onto your dashboard in job portals, which gives you a recommendation, right? Why? Because I have your historical trends, where all you have worked, what kind of a jobs that you have searched, right? And basis that, it can give me the descriptive analytics basis, the prediction that can be taken care of. So, so in each history, data plays an important role. So where is the data getting generated? One, data is the historical data that we have, right? One is data is generating at every second. Right now we are sitting into this webinar, right? And there is tons of data that is getting generated for a social media platforms like Facebook of the world, Twitter and LinkedIn, and so on and so forth, right? And now there are machines which are working on, right, all these in a background. There's a Hadoop cluster that is there, which is breaking that data into multiple segments, so that if there are any trends that are coming up, I can look at it. Why we say a lot of time you heard that a certain hashtag is in trend. What does that mean, right? There are a lot of posts with that hashtag being into their post, right? It's been trending because people are talking about it, right? So that is where NLP plays a role. It's not even if I do not put hashtag, but I post some comments, post some what do you say, the post, right? I put some post into my storyboards and all that stuff in the social media channels, right? Which is in line to a particular hashtag, right? That makes the hashtag trending. So that's all is what your hashtag trending is all about, and it talks about the current data and the historical data to make sure that you have some analytics that is there. So how is predictive analytics different than descriptive analytics, as they're both using the past data to predict the future, right? Descriptive analytics, Deepti, does not give you, right? It only looks for the historical data, right? It's like predictive and descriptive, they go hand in hand. If I just need to understand what has gone wrong and end my story there, right? That is descriptive analytics. Now I got to know that what has gone wrong, how I can fix that, right? That's or what can be the future outcomes if I do not fix anything right now. What can I can say, my Delhi Chandigarh is flight sector is basically giving me a losses of 41% as of today. This is what my descriptive analytics is saying. Predictive analytics say, hey, Mr. X, your 41% negative margins of the losses can go to 60% if you do not fix this, right? So descriptive analytics gives us the starting point, right? And predictive analytics helps us to understand the kind of losses I can get into if my solutions are not coming up. While if you look at the different, if you look at the prescriptive analytics, it can advise on the possible outcomes, right? Which is from my predictive, which tells me about that, okay, if you do this is where I can put my margins from negative 41% to, let's say, positive 2%, right? If I do not do this, right, it can give me the different angle altogether. So it's not, I will not say that it's standalone analytics. Analytics is something which goes hand in hand, right? One output of a one kind of an analytics can be an input to the other, right? And it's just the verbiage that has been changed from that perspective. They all go hand in hand, right? Even your preventive analytics, how will you prevent certain things? Until and unless you have a dig down into your historical data, I cannot prevent something, right? I cannot understand something, right? That this may happen because if I have seen in historical data, if my air pressure is to a certain extent, if my cloud movements is to a particular direction, if my speed of the winds are into a particular direction, high chance of hitting the tsunami or any natural calamity at a particular time. There's a pressure building up in the crust of the earth, possibility of getting an earthquake, right? So one is understanding the data and then understanding more about, right, how, where is that data sitting into it, and how that can be helpful for understanding and giving us the output from that per se. Perfect. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about the growing need of analytics, generation of large amount of data from the business transactions, right? As I give you an example of social media and blah, 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 right? Uh, so that is something which is data harnessing, right? People are collecting the larger set of data. So companies store each piece of information generated during the business operations and customer interaction. Every interaction, everything that you're doing onto the onto any of the platform, they are storing that data, right? They are understanding that data, what is something happening, right? What I post negative comments for certain things, right? Why I can be blocked at times. You might have seen that I go back and I get blocked for a certain amount of time if I keep pushing some negative stuff which is harming the certain set of population in the country, right? So that is where, right, every action that you guys are taking, there are something called data storage, and your data is getting recorded. So for example, in this Walmart, number of transactions every year is about 4 billion. How many stores are there? 900, right? The SKUs are nothing but your clusteration that we have done, right, to track this data and intelligently manage this particular stuff. So hence, this is where we talk about the data as a whole. And when the data is generated, it is not generated just for a storage. It is generated to be analyzed, right? Why it is being analyzed? The learnings that data gives, right, your human intelligence cannot, right? Data speaks. Why we say data speaks, right? Data is never blind, right? Data speaks. The learning from data is used in the decision making and process optimization, right? At the end of the day, it is understanding what has gone wrong, what can go wrong, and how I can avoid these. If you remember these three statements, right, the entire big data revolves around it, right? And in a layman term, right, we call it as what has gone wrong, why it has gone wrong, how it can be avoided in future, right? And the fourth aspect is what if. So there is a fourth aspect, which is what if I do this, what if I do not do this, what is an impact. So impact management, understanding the impact, and also optimizing my impact. Also there are a lot of time we right, and that's a personal example that I want to share. A lot of time data speaks saying that okay, yes, you do whatever, right, you will not be able to hit the positive margins, right? Why? Because this is what it is. This is, you can, there is an optimization level that the organization can go into, right? But I can cut down my costs, losses, right? I'll take one example. There was a platform from Google called Hire, right? They ended up that platform, and that was the first platform Google shut it down, right, ever, right? Just because of the reason, because they were not able to make money in spite of best product into the HR recruitment space, best ATS system from best organizations, still they were not able to make, right? And there were a lot of startups that were doing great, right, because of the product portfolio that they were doing. So they did the analysis and they found that okay, we will not be able to take it up, rather going for the organic growth. Let's take an inorganic growth. So they shut down their own operational platform and ended up doing the investments or acquisitions into the same field, right, at the end of the day. So that is what their data speaks. Data tells you and helps you rather to take some decisions, to take some valuable decision which can be in a favor of cost optimization, profit optimization, revenue optimization, and customer satisfaction optimization. And the data volumes, right, if you see, in that's in trillions of GB. In 2010 it was 1.2 trillion GB, while in 2015 it was 7.9, and right now we are sitting at 58.97 trillion GB of a data. That is, as a whole, as a globe, this is the kind of a data volumes that we have. From the overall perspective, data is there, you just have to understand where is your data, right, and how exactly you will be able to get it done. Oh, let's go on to the next. Why? Now we have been talking about what is analytics, what is big data. Now why big data is big data analytics is important. As I said, it helps the organization to harness their existing data which has been there, to identify some new opportunities, right, which can enhance their overall organization stuff, right? And that in turn leads to smarter decision moves. I cannot go on my intuition based decision. None of the larger organization, they go for an intuition based decision. Okay, I like to venture into a particular portfolio and let's do that. No. Why you have to venture into it? What is the market segment? What kind of a customer moat is there, right? Why you should have a right to win. So there is a term called right to win in any product that you go back and launch, right? So all these informed decisions, right, are being done after the big data analytics, right? Paytm does not have started, right, with the additional services of Paytm banks and the Paytm ATMs that you see. until and unless they have done all their analysis, which is about the cost, the customer satisfaction, the market, right? What kind of a fintech, how the fintech market is growing, right? All these are being taken into consideration for, at the end of the day, it's all about the customers, right? Customer is the fulcrum of any data, any solution, any implementations that you do, right? Because it can help you, the data can help you out to predict, optimize, empower, discover, trust, and describe the decision making capabilities or describe the problems so that you can have a change in your delivery models, right? Through your thought analysis that goes into the picture, right? So that's what the big data is important, and that's why it is something that goes into the overall picture. Let's move on. Data scientist, right? Somebody was asking what is data scientist and all that stuff. So a business analyst is not able to discover the insights from the set of data of different domains, right? So what is the role of data scientist is, data scientists can work in the coordination with different verticals, different organizations, different data structures, and identify the patterns that the data can generate, right? We call it as data cuts, right? Data scientists can go back and generate a lot of data cuts, right, to make more insightful, to make the data more insightful, and that can help the organizations to take a tangible business decisions. When I say tangible business decision, it cannot be if I make the statement, I will be in the positive margins after 2 years of my product launch. I mean, that is not at all making any business sense, right? And why, for example, it is for the investors to go back and invest in your product. Why will they go back and invest, right? If you say in 2 years, I will be giving you 2x of your investment and my margins will be around 41%, which enables me to take the next round of funding from my series A, right, to a tune of $100,000, or let's say a $1 million worth of portfolio creation or a valuation of my organization. If you have such data, right, and you make such statements, and you cannot make such statements in the air, there is a data that has to back up. Why 40%? Why not 39% or 41%? Right? Why 2 years? Why not 1.5 years or 3 years? Right? So data has to be backed up by the statements and the decisions that you make, and that's what data scientist does. It goes back and from a multi-domain specific, and it goes back and perform the actions around it. Right? If you see here, right, the domestic market onto the analytics professionals now, right, in the country, right, 75 million is projected for the requirements in the domestic market. Analytics market, it is the valuation is about 3.3 billion projected for this year, right? Unfortunately, these numbers from NASCOM now have to be revised, right, considering what we all are going through. And there was a prediction of over 500,000 jobs within India, right, in 2020, but that is something that has taken a steep backward step because of all this COVID that has happened. But yes, as I think that's the first week of January numbers which NASCOM has reported for this year, right, and that's where we stand. By industry, like it's not only jobs, but these are the industries which are implementing, right, lot of analytics, right? And if you see, right, I did it for different countries, right? So if you see the analytics service, right, the most being used in India as a whole, right? However, the insurance market, if you see in US, will have the highest number of analytics, right, that will be done. The reason being is US, and that is something that I'm talking about, the healthcare insurance, because 18.9% of their GDP, right, expenses or expenditure goes into the healthcare industry, and that's where they have to come up with a lot of analytics around it. Banking, yes, it is more in UK because that's the financial hub, and Singapore for Asia Pacific. right? For the Western region, UK is the hub of the financial banking market, right? While for Asia Pacific, we all know that it's Singapore, right? Oil and gas, Brazil, which is the near shore to your MENA region, right? That's where oil and gas is onto the higher side. Communication technology, still the analytics has not been picking up well. But if you see the insurance sector, if you see the pharma sector, if you see the overall analytics as a whole, right? These are the three predominant sectors wherein the analytics is at the peak right now. And with all this COVID and all that stuff, analytics in pharma and insurance is to the highest level. And I'm sure this numbers would be way higher than what you see specifically for your pharma and insurance, right? Because insurance is now worried about the mortality rate of the people, right? Pharma is worried about what can be the vaccination, what can be the solves that has to go into it, so that I can perform some test and other cases into this particular disease, the pandemic that we all are going through, right? So that's where the overall perspective is being shown up. Let's talk about now. We all I have understood the numbers and all. Let's talk about the tools, right? So big data analytics tools are Tableau, Python, R, Hadoop, right? These are some of the tools that people should go back and master, right? When it comes to the overall perspective of data analytics, right? When it comes to now, let's talk about each of the one, right? SAS, Tableau, Python, R, Hadoop. Let's talk about why SAS is number one as of now. Because SAS is basically an integrated platform for your entire life cycle of the solution, right? It provides integrated set of different software products, services, technologies, reporting, analytics, and also give unmatched solutions across different multiple domains and industries, right? It is used by over 60,000 companies in 135 different countries, right? When we talk about R, right, which is a programming language, right, for the data, right? If you see, right, it's a most used data science language after SQL, right? It's 75% of the data professional uses R as a language. It supports over 10,000 free packages, right? Which is available as a part of the overall stuff, and it is number 13 in the entire programming languages world as far as the Redmark languages rating is being concerned, right? And R is number one Google search. If you go to analytics.google.com or trends.google.com, you will see R is the number one Google search for the advanced analytics software. And companies that are using is Facebook, Uber, Lloyds of London, McKinsey, ANZ Bank, Facebook, and all that stuff. And there are many, the list goes on. Right now, why Hadoop? Hadoop is basically, guys, now it's first of all, it's an open source product, right? The second one is, right, the framework that was created in 2005, and that keeps the data into a distributed manner, right? When I say distributed manner, I have 10,000 petabytes of data, right? If I go back and run a query onto such data in my non-clustered environment, right, it will take ages, right? Absolutely, it will. When I say ages, right, at least a week or so to get me the output generated, right? But what if I go back and cluster this entire 10,000 petabytes of the data in small cluster of, let's say, uh, 2 GB, 5 GB, 7 GB of a data, and cluster this around multiple data sets, right? So that is where I will create the collection of that entire 10,000 work, and all the Hadoop will do, it helps me to go back and get me the output immediately, right? Rather than waiting for a longer period of time. And we have seen a query that will, a job that will go on for a week, right? If implemented using Hadoop, right, can give me the output in few hours, not the days that we are talking about. And low cost, right? The only it can tolerate high faulty data, right? It can create the value from the data actually, and gives us that. So there was a statement from Gartner, right? Gartner is nothing but the one of the largest analytics trend-setting organization, right? For all the technologies, they do a lot of surveys and come up with the trends for the next 3 years, 5 years. It's saying the growing use of Apache Hadoop, increasing data warehouse volume sizes, and the accumulation of legacy system in the organizations are fostering the structured data growth. These factors are leading enterprises to understand how to reuse, repurpose, and gain critical insight from their data, right? That's what they made the statement, and that's what Hadoop can help us to do from the overall perspective, right? Top 5 reasons organizations are using Hadoop, right? One is it is low cost because of the open source. The computing power is light at a lightning speed, right? If you get a chance to get into the Hadoop and get trained yourself onto the Hadoop, you'll understand how fast that data output that can be generated. I can cluster and scale my data sets or scale my clusters not within hours, within minutes. I can scale my solution, right? It has a high storage capacity, high storage flexibility, and the data protection, which is the core of your entire success, is being taken care by as well. Python is when you have to implement any intelligence based data, ML, AI that we talk about in big data, prefer to use Python because Python is, first of all, open source, right? Easy to learn, easy to use. They have a fixed libraries and something which is data, specifically their data analytics libraries which have been there. It is one of the best available in any of the portal, right? Any of the markets. So that is what Immaculus goes back and tell us about it, right? Powerful, very extensive, specifically onto your predictive analytics, right? And big data, right? Analytics made possible by, so there are, if you wanted to go, Python is an ocean, first of all, right? If you wanted to learn the data analytics side of the Python, right? Hadoop and Skype, right? These are the two libraries, and they have their own functions at all, right? Absolutely, they have a lot of functions from that. So if you understand Hadoop and Skype, and that's where it can be a start point for you to become a data scientist, data analysis person to go back and integrate the kind of the stuff. So Python particularly uses a lot of data analytics libraries which are inbuilt for writing the data, calculating the data, creating some graphical representation out of it, right? And there's something called MapReduce programs within the Python using the library for the Hadoop that I'm talking about, right? That can process your petabytes of a data within this specific very short period of time with a lesser memory consumption as well. So that's what why the Python is being used. Python, if you see, right, demand, yes, rank #1 programming in 2019, and the second most popular data science language is what Python is all about. Now, there is something called data analysis, data analytics, data science. There's something called data visualization, right? How effectively you can create your data utilization is what we are talking about here, right? It's a pictorial representation or a graphical representation of a data that can help you to take the information trends very easily by setting up that overall trend engine while we view this. And the best data visualization tools are Tableau, Power BI, ClickSense. These are the three more. And now Power BI is from the Microsoft. Tableau is the standalone application, right, from the organization called Tableau, right? It's a most flexible, easy to learn tool, right? And the best part is it can integrate with Python also. You can have your own ML, predictive analytics, machine learning technologies written in Python and integrate with your data visualization so that it can also start sending you the trends and all that stuff. So that is where Tableau is famous for your data visualization, right? So you have a lot of data visualization that can happen in Tableau, and that enables you to go back and perform this overall analytics as a whole from that perspective, right? So I have, this is something that I wanted to go back and share. Now, for the next 10 minutes, I'll open this forum for the questions and the answers that I will be helping you out with. Pentaho, Kaleem, right? It's good, but it has a limited libraries, limited scalability, right? Limited dashboards that can be come up. But when it comes to overall visualization tool, we prefer to use these three that I was talking about because of their inbuilt libraries, inbuilt functions, inbuilt data security part of it, right? From a overall data visualization per se. Pentaho is for a smaller chunk of a data that has own limitization also, right? But when it comes to Tableau, Power BI, and ClickSense, these are the three most prominent the tools that have been used for the data visualization. Tableau is number one, followed by Power BI, and then ClickSense. I would say Tableau because of their inbuilt features that they have. So I will say Tableau is more powerful and better than any other tool available in the market as of now. Is Python mandatory to become data scientist? Python, yes. Jayan, the answer is yes. I would say yes, you should learn Python or Hadoop. These are the three in-scope activities or the learnings that you should have, right? In case you have to explore your data scientist role, right, and explore these opportunities for the data scientist which is there. uh, so one is data analytics. You should be good at the mathematical operations, right, functions, while data scientist, you should be good at calculus and algebra, right? So data scientist is a real tough nut to crack, no doubt about it. So data analytics is something that you can learn if you are good with mathematical operations. Person from non-engineering background. Uh, Data science does not require engineering background, to be honest, right? It requires the background of mathematics, statistics, right? If you have that kind of a background, I think data scientist is something that you can always go back and explore. Let's see. Now the question is, right? Okay. Right. So these are the questions. In case I have missed something, guys, just let me know. Data visualization. If I leave the technical languages behind like Python and R, and you talk about data visualization, guys, there are a lot of demands because the organizations who are doing the data analytics, they need data visualization experts as well, the Tableau experts as well, right? Because data scientists or data analytics, they can write the codes, but who will create that storyboard, who will create that flow of that thoughts into the visualization is what your data visualization team does. And that's where the dashboarding, storyboards, and etc. is something that data visualization experts go back and do. You do not need multiple tools, guys, but just try to make sure that you learn R, Hadoop, and Python in case you have to go for a role of data analytics. One tool is not enough at all, right? They do not do something goes hand in hand, right? Hadoop is a data cluster where my inputs will coming from. Python is where I go back and design. So you can, if you have to go into data science, R is mandatory. If you have to go in data analytics, Python is mandatory. What learning path should we follow to learn big data in Microsoft? Start off with data visualization, guys. So whenever you start your journey, start with data visualization. Understand how the data can be structured in different way, right? Then once the visualization is done, understand how the analytics can be done, how I can create that analytics. So you go to Python and Hadoop that time, right? And then if you wanted to go into data science, then R is the language that you should go back. So you should have a top-down approach from visualization to analytics to scientists. This is what your approach should be. Yes, Python is good for data science, but for analytics, R is preferred over any other language. Is Power BI enough for data analyst? The answer is no. So one of our friend has a question: is Power BI enough for data analyst? The answer is no. If you know Power BI, you are not the data analyst. You are a data visualization expert, right? To become a data analyst, you should know how to understand and create that trends engine, recommendation engine that is only possible from the languages like R, Python, and all that. Can you suggest any online platform to learn data analytics and data science? I mean, there are multiple, right? There are multiple, I would say, right? You go into Coursera, you go into many other online platforms which are connected to IITs of the world and universities like Harvard, Oxfords of the world, right? There are multiple online courses that are available from that perspective. Security mechanism. So all these products that we are talking about, Hadoop, what do you say, R, Python, they all are open source but on-premise solution. So your data will reside onto your premises only, right? Will not move anywhere into the cloud. Hence, the data security is retained by the domain, right, or the cluster in which my product is being installed. There are certifications, right? Tableau has its own certification, right? Then the certifications are from the online certification providers like Coursera and all that stuff. So there are courses and the certifications which are available. Cost varies from what kind of a course that you have to go into. So that's what it is. Traditional database like Oracle, and the others that we are talking about, right? Oracle SQL are fine, but the Oracle SQL does not provide me the clusterization of the data which Hadoop provides, and hence we prefer to use Hadoop over any of your big data implementation. Is Tableau an open source to learn? Tableau provides a desktop application for learners, right? They have their own academies also, right? If not, there are multiple YouTube videos that are available to go back and learn and to start off with. But professional trainings are advisable. YouTube and all, they are good to have, but yes, professional certification and trainings is something that you should go for it. I know there are a lot of junks online, right? So that is where, as I said, Coursera is one that you should look for because of their certification that they provide. So that is where you can always go back and look at it. Uh, the typical big data implementation, right? The cost varies, right? Depends upon what is the kind of output that you're looking at. I mean, it can start off with few thousand, 100,000 of the dollars, right? And it goes to a larger multi-million dollar projects also. So depending upon what you do. And yes, on Udemy, there is a trainer called Frank Kene. It's Frank, and the last name is Kane, right? He has some brilliant stuff for big data for beginners. I think that can be a good starting point as well, which is very cheap, about 400, 500 bucks. That is something that you can go back and do it from Udemy. But Udemy also has a lot of junk which is there. Look for the trainer called Frank Kenney, and I think he will be the good starting point for you to understand. All right. You are welcome. Any other questions that you may have? You're welcome. Let me check for a feedback link because we are towards the end of this session. Give me 1 second. Let me check and I'll let you. Thank you, Kolesh. Means a lot. Really appreciate your feedback. Guys, my name is Jatin Malhotra, and the trainer's name that I was talking about is Frank Kenne. It's Frank, and the last name is Kane. That he is available on Udemy. The path to learn big data, as I said, Vishnu, it should start from data visualization, go to data analysis, and then the data scientist. Thank you, Gaurav. Just give me a second. I'm just publishing the feedback link, guys, and would appreciate if you can hold on for a few minutes before we call it a day, because your feedback will help me out to improve as well. Thank you, Pramod. Appreciate your feedback. Thanks, Ravi. Yeah, it was for 2 hours, but I think that's where I just wanted to have a crisp information. I do not want to go into deep about the other stuff. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your feedbacks. Glad to know that, guys. Thank you. Just give me a second, guys. Just let me go back and check it once again. Just give me 2 more minutes, please. I really appreciate your patience and sorry about the delay. I know, Sumit, this is just an overview of the stuff, right? It could have been more elaborative, right? If we had more stuff to go back and manage with respect to the time. Sorry guys, Vishnu, my number is 790-629-0799. That's my WhatsApp number. And Matthew, I don't know whether I was on a mute while I was talking about Elasticsearch versus analytics. If not, let me repeat this or reiterate it. Elasticsearch is basically more like my BCP, right? If my cluster fails, if my one of the cluster fails, I can pick it up that cluster from the perspective of the different clusters available in the Hadoop environment, right? And create an elasticity between two servers that if one goes down, one goes fluctuated, I can pick up the cluster from the other and provide my analytics onto it. Guys, I've published my phone number if in just in case if you need it. Ravindra, I'm waiting for the poll to get started, right? My apologies for this, right? The IT guys got struck with some technical glitch to publish the poll into the GoToMeeting, so they're just publishing it in any moment. And I really, really appreciate your patience, and if you guys can hold on before leaving, do fill the feedback, and it can, because it can help me to reorganize my thoughts, reorganize the way I've been training and talking on these webinars. That will be helpful. Sumit, I have overall 17 plus years of work experience and I'm BTech in IT. I have sent the link in the chat window, right? I hope you all have got it. If not, I would appreciate if you can go back and check the chat part of the GoToMeeting, and there's a link, and let me know if that's workable. The feedback link is there in the chat window, not the question window, but the chat window. Thank you guys. Thank you. We'll appreciate if you can go back and fill up the feedback. Cannot see the chat option. Can you? People are able to see that, right? Uh, Mankarandeep, I think to start off with, I would say Tableau is the best option, considering the kind of the stuff that Tableau can give you. Sorry, Gopal, if I missed your question. Right. So as I said, the career path should be right to start off with data visualization and then go down to data analyst by learning Python, and then go down to data scientist by learning R. Right. So that's how the overall learning path should be, and that's how you should make your career progressed around those lines. Thanks, Sumit. Thanks, Ganesh. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Sanket. Gopal, Tableau and Power BI, and the third one is ClickSense. These are the three prominent data visualization tool which organizations are using, and I think that's what the focus should be. And if you go back and do the analysis on these tools, Tableau has the biggest market share. Really appreciate it, Dattatreya. You are welcome. Really appreciate it, Harsh. Thanks, Jagmohan. Harsh, to answer your question, right? What is the source of data for anyone, right? Who generates the data? Data is, be it my social media, be it my voice of customers, be it the people who are traveling, right? I'm doing the analytics onto a particular sector, as I said, in your overall sector in the airlines, right? Who is something that is creating the data? Who is the source of the data? It's all human, right? We are the one who creates the data. We are the one who sets up the voice as a voice of the customer, right? So entire data bank, right, is full of human provided data, intentionally or unintentionally, right? Even if I'm putting something, I'm just traveling, right? I do not have provided anything, but my data is recorded with airlines saying that, okay, I traveled, I am a frequent traveler. Let's go back and provide some analytics and give some benefits to the frequent travelers, right? So the source of data, any kind of the data, is human, and human are the fulcrums of this entire data bank, right? And hence, importance of human is, or I would say, human play a very, very important role for creation of the data on which this entire big data technology revolves around. Perfect. All right, guys. So I think this is what we have for the day. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining in. Right, and be safe, take care, and God bless you.